For many, or even most of you, revolvers are something you've chalked up as a dated weapon. Perhaps even a novelty.
Sure, you might enjoy owning one, but it's not a serious gun for you. It's your boomer gun. But that's like saying because a World War II 1911 A1 is dated, that it's crazy to carry a 1911 in 2026. In reality, modern technology and manufacturing techniques can take old concepts and make them new again.
Today we're looking at the world of luxury revolvers, specifically Korths, as we try to answer the question, what makes this a $6,000 revolver? Everyone, welcome to the show. It is great to have you here. Today's video is going to take you in a couple different directions, really. It kind of started as, frankly, a rather straightforward sort of Korth review-esque situation here. And it's really evolved. It's going to kind of be a mashup of a bunch of different things. As we were making the video, one of the big questions we started to come up with was, what really makes this, on average, a $6,000 pistol? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to actually be starting with that, but we're going to be going to the range. We're actually going to do a decent amount of shooting just to show you sort of how, just some of the, maybe not features, but just sort of how smooth these are. Manual of arms is a little bit different. Right. There's some interesting things with calibers that we want to show you guys. So there's going to be a bunch of different things happening here, because at the end of the day, it's actually a pretty interesting argument for a shit hits the fan gun.
Sure.
In a roundabout way, it's kind of fascinating.
Well, and you know, you and I both are actually pretty big fans of the Korth revolvers, and you know, when we were beginning to tool up for this video, one thing I noticed and you noticed was, man, there's really not a lot of information on these guns out there.
No.
And I'm really tired of watching a Korth review. I'm gonna get a little angry here. And then the guy says, well, I'm not really a revolver guy. Well, then don't talk about a Korth revolver. How about that?
Yeah, it's like saying I'm not a 1911 guy, and it's like, oh, I'm reviewing a heirloom precision gun today. It's
sure.
Like, oh, well, you probably don't know what you're looking at.
Exactly, and not that, you know, we're experts by any means. Over the past year and a half, 2 years almost now, you and I have become revolver guys. Now, I'm not saying we're the experts, you know.
I certainly am not.
But
I enjoy them.
We like them a lot more, it seems, than other people who have done reviews on Korth.
Well, and spend a time on, you know, Colts and Smiths and Korths and this and that. And you go, hey, okay, cool. Now you got a little bit of perspective. No expert whatsoever. For those of you that don't necessarily understand, Nighthawk is the importer for Korth. So that's the connection. We both know Nighthawk, good relationship there. I actually owned a Korth for years, and you got yours and I actually got a little bit jealous, and I was kind of like, man, I gotta admit, I kind of like to have a Korth that I could use on a little bit more of a functional level. And I saw this 3-inch silver mongoose, and I was like, I like that gun a lot. So effectively, Nighthawk / Korth was nice enough to just say, why don't we just do some trading? Or I kind of approached them with that. And so anyway, I basically traded out my old Korth for my new one, and got a carry holster and all kinds of shit we'll show for that. So yeah, anyway, we like those guys. There's a little bit of an inherent bias there because like we're friendly with those guys. But at the end of the day, we'll give you a fair shake. We always do that around here, so nothing to worry about. But more importantly than that, guys, you know who likes a good wheel gun? National Armory. How do I know? Because I talked to them, dang it. How do I also know? Because I've been in their shop, dang it. I know this stuff. I'm not pulling it out of my ass. I know this stuff. Where are they located? It doesn't freaking matter whether
No, they're in Pittsburgh. But at the same time, it doesn't matter where they're located because you can figure it out even if you don't live in Pittsburgh. I did. You think I'm in Pittsburgh right now? Does it look like I'm in Pittsburgh right now? I'm not. I can still find National Armory, not a freaking big deal, man. Have you ever thought to yourself, like, I'm just so bored with all these modern, generic bullshit guns? National Armory hears you. They support your decision to move in new directions with your collection. I like to think that every time you hear a round of 357 go off, a National Armory angel gets its wings. That's what we're about around here. I follow their Instagram. Why do I do it? Because I don't suck. If you don't want to suck, you should follow their Instagram too. I would, because they put good stuff on it. And you know what I say? That's freaking cool, man. So we appreciate National Armory and their support. We'll go ahead and move on with the show. Hopefully they didn't fire me, but we'll go ahead and move on.
Okay, guys, so let's really kind of jump into the heart of the matter, which is what makes this a $6,000 revolver.
Sure.
And we've covered this topic before, actually, at Griffin and Howe, in terms of what makes a $50,000 rifle a $50,000 rifle, and people seem to enjoy stuff like that. So we're like, okay, cool. Let's maybe try to answer the question, what makes these so expensive? Because the range on Korths, now granted, they've got some crazy stuff like their Bitcoin gun and all kinds of wild stuff that gets outrageously expensive, but as a baseline, Korths start at about $4,000 and go up to about 10. Okay, and if you just average it out somewhere in there, you go, all right, most of them are running roughly around $6,000, right? Which is kind of how we came up with what makes it a $6,000 gun. What becomes fascinating to me is if you go, look, you can go to the world of mainstream revolvers, Colt, Smiths, pretty much anything, and would you say that within about 1,500, you could pretty much get any production revolver you want? Generally, a new Python.
I mean, you're probably looking for generally new production revolvers. You're looking between $8,000 and $2,000, and $2,000 being an extreme.
Right, and so I'm going, all right. Within $1,500, you go get a new Model 29,
Absolutely.
a new Python, new Anaconda, like whatever you want. So going from 1,500 to 6Gs is a big gap, and that's what creates the question: how do we get to that big leap in price?
Absolutely. Yeah, so, Korth is also one of those things where when I, again, see people doing reviews on Korth, it's always that same trope of, well, it's just extremely well made. It's extremely well made.
Yeah.
Fit and finish is great. And it's like, well, but what does that mean? Okay? Because everyone's got their own definition of that. What does that mean? And I think one thing that's actually overlooked in that whole concept is actually an intangible, and that's the pedigree of Korth.
Absolutely.
So Korth was started in 1950s by German gunsmith Wiley Korth. Kind of cool
Willy?
name. Yeah, and he was
that.
known for a pursuit of high-end manufacturing. Now, listen, guys, I know what you're thinking. Eli's about to go on a big history dump. I'm actually going to keep this one pretty concise, but there's a lot of information on Korth, and truly, when you learn about Wiley Korth, dude was a machine and fool. Big time machine and fool. He got into gun making kind of after the Second World War, but not really like guns. He actually made blank firing guns because, of course, Germany was not allowed to produce firearms following the Second World War.
Right.
And the cool thing about this is you can actually see the roots of how well built Korths are made, because his blank firing revolvers were so well made, they actually started getting a little dicey for being converted to live firing revolvers. They were just so well-made guns. So the small arms manufacturing ban was lifted in 1955. Now, they still had caliber restrictions. You couldn't make over a certain caliber. So he started his own actual live firearms company about 1955, about that time, actually. It didn't really start getting spun up until the early 60s. The highest caliber that he actually offered at that time was a .32 Smith & Wesson, because that was the highest his license would allow. So it's kind of an interesting concept that they had like a license tier for different calibers. And certainly, again, following the Second World War, we
Unique set of circumstances,
we understand why. So he showed innovation early on. His guns had the easily removable cylinder, which we'll get into, extremely early on in the production. Very early on, like into the 60s and 70s. So he was already showing a lot of the bones that would become the modern day Korth. And let's be honest, that is a tagline feature for a Korth, how easily removable the cylinder is.
Yeah.
And so that's cool to see that route actually goes all the way back to the 60s, when the gun company started. He would continue to innovate revolver lines over the following decades, just continued to pursue what a revolver could be. It's a really interesting, and it's classically German when it comes to manufacturing small arms. They're never happy with the standard. They always want to continue to build on that. We know that from the HK stuff.
Right.
So when he first started doing it, it was kind of a fully handcrafted pistol. Early Korths had about 70 hours of hand labor into them.
Shit. I mean, that's like full high-end 1911 territory.
Oh,
absolutely. Like high-end territory.
That's like custom.
Serious
There's like
stuff.
semi-custom, custom. That's like custom level. And the thing that I actually thought was really interesting, there was about 600 different operations in making the gun.
Jeez.
So, of course, listen, the Germans are never going to let that fly. That's way too high on manufacturing time. That's way too many operations. You know how Germans are. They're gonna concise that over time. So, and he does. He kind of was one of the very first, not the first, but one of the early adopters of 9mm in revolvers. That again is another tagline feature for the Korth today, and we're going to get into that more. But that was as early as the 1980s, and that was without moon clips, by the way.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but I just want to throw this out there. His extractor is always the interesting thing. And it's very unique on this gun, but on the early ones, I believe it turned into the kind of, technically 9mm are rimless, but they still have, a rim for extractors, right? Well, his extractor star kind of like turned into the rim and then extracted.
That is cool. That's
But
really
again, and the way that they do it now is actually even cooler, in my opinion. So they've expanded upon the design as much as they can, and that's what's brought us the guns they have today. And as we noted earlier, or you noted, the Korth revolver truly can be something as simple as this mongoose all the way to the wildest NX8s or what have you. They really continue even today to push the innovation. And then, of course, in 2016, Nighthawk Customs started bringing them into the country. So again, the Korth brand is something that has had prestige in firearms for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, damn near half a century.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I'm always like, man, you say these are really well built guns, but it's kind of like buying, a Colt. There's a name prestige there, and I think that Korth deserves that. I mean, what they've done in manufacturing, they absolutely deserve that same, laurels, if you will.
Sometimes part of what you're paying for is legacy.
Truly.
It's just a reality.
The nice thing about this legacy, though, is that they've actually, over time, changed their manufacturing facility. Not really changed, but they've improved upon. And I believe they've gotten that crazy, 70 hours is what I said? They've got it down to about 17 hours.
Which is still a lot.
Still a lot. However, I think you can even agree, you don't feel that this gun is lacking because it's,
No.
because of that manufacturing.
No, not
time.
at all.
But again, you know how Germans are. They're going to find ways to make it faster and more efficient, but still retain the quality. That's like a hallmark of Germans. That kind of gets you up to speed on Korth as a brand, at least for what we're doing today. And now we kind of want to get into answering the big question: what makes these $6,000? So let's get into meat and taters of what makes this gun so expensive, because most people the Korth brand may not actually resonate with them. So I'm going to give you some real, actual facts on why these guns are so well made, what makes them so expensive.
And for the Germans watching, tater.
Oh, we all like taters. They eat a lot of that.
Potato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Just clarifying what a tater is for the international audience.
for the international audience. Okay. So the trigger is where I'm going to start this, because typically when you pick up a Korth, that's going to be the number one thing that you notice if you're even a little bit torqued up on revolvers.
Yeah.
That's going to be the number one thing you notice. You're gonna notice that it does not feel like any other trigger that you've ever felt. And that's not, I'm not wanting to knock on any domestic companies, surely. But the way that the trigger works, it has a roller bearing system that the hammer rolls off on. Now, what that does, when you have a Smith & Wesson, we'll just say Smith & Wesson, and again, I'm a big Smith & Wesson guy, so don't think this is a knock on Smith & Wesson, but when you have a Smith & Wesson, as you press the trigger, and you know this, you can feel the mechanical action of everything turning.
Yeah.
When you pull this trigger, you do not feel the mechanical action rolling through that.
Nope.
At all. And I know that you can't really feel this with us, but it's really a unique feel that I've never felt on any other revolver.
The maybe an equivalent for those of you that kind of overuse this term, but when people talk about a 1911 or a 2011, it feels like it's on ball bearings.
It actually kind of is.
Yeah, it's like
it's on a roller bearing.
Yeah, the smoothest possible feeling of that ball bearing sort of trigger. Yeah,
sure. The cool thing about that, and actually we both have taken advantage of this, that roller can be changed out by Nighthawk. Do not try to do it on your own. Nighthawk will do it. Call him, talk to Bob Reeves, tell him you watch this video, and he'll hook you up. But the different rollers, they have a spectrum, and they can kind of change how that trigger stages up, if you don't mind showing the audience. So he and I have the number 5 roller in our guns, and that allows the gun to be staged. And this just allows for this trigger to have some semblance of like a Smith & Wesson trigger, just because we're so used to those. It's not that the other ones aren't good, it's just like I'm used to a certain trigger and I like having that. So the trigger pull is also adjustable. It's not, there's not a huge variance, and typically when you start talking adjustable triggers and revolvers, people really don't know what they're talking about, and they'll go to a Smith & Wesson and they'll start cranking on that strain screw. That is not, by the way, how you adjust. That's not an adjustable trigger, by the way. So when you do that, you cause light primer strikes.
Yeah.
Which I think your Model 29 actually had that. Yeah, I tightened that up for you. These guns actually do have adjustable triggers. They're kind of a little bit of you have to kind of do a little feel it. I've left mine stock, but you can adjust it, mainly because they actually use a like called mainspring. So that's pretty cool, rather than like a flat wire, strain spring. So really nice stuff there. The trigger is fantastic. So certainly that's the hallmark of a Korth revolver. The next thing I want to talk about is when we say fit and finish of the gun. So the cylinder gap, which is the area, you mind holding that up? Which is the area between the cylinder and obviously where the barrel extends into the frame. The cylinder gap is usually between 4,000 and 6,000. Okay. Yep. They could make them tighter. Okay, they could, but you want to have kind of pressure more evenly spaced. And also, if you have it any more tight, you start to have issues with as the gun fouls, it will cause the gun to not
Gets a
work.
tolerance issue. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where if you shoot Korths a lot and you shoot like a Smith & Wesson a lot, you will typically have to clean the Korth a little bit more often. I actually have noticed I actually keep a brush with me because I tend to, really hammer through some rounds, and I've had to clean the gun because you can just feel the cylinder getting a little tight. That's not a bad thing. Again, you just got to know. Typically, when you go to a revolver class, you should have, your screws for your side plate, and you should have a brush in your back pocket, anyways, if you're torqued up on everything. So going from the cylinder gap to the barrel, this is kind of where it gets a little exciting. So they use polygonal. Is that how you pronounce that? Because English ain't my first language.
Or polygonal.
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 That sounds like I'm gonna.
You're in Utah.
I'm gonna have multiple barrels.
You're in Utah.
I'm gonna be married to multiple barrels. So, what do we say?
Polygonal.
Polygonal.
Yeah, we can go with
Okay,
that.
that's where we're going.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, the gun is a 357. Well, this gun is 357, but the bore is 355.
Yeah.
So that is actually why the gun is very, very, very accurate, even in 9mm. When you do caliber conversions, which you can, shout out TK Customs, they can do a 9mm conversion on a Smith & Wesson, but sometimes the bore is a little open, so the guns don't shoot as good, as with 38 and 357. This gun has actually a tighter bore, and it shoots 9mm extremely well because of that. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, what happens when you try to stuff 357 in there? Well, because of that polygonal style rifling, it is made in a way that allows for no pressure spikes. So it's very safe to still shoot 357 and 9mm. The benefits of that barrel style too, it's supposed to be easier to clean. We cleaned them. I didn't notice it was harder or easier.
Yeah. Thanks for cleaning my gun. I haven't cleaned my gun yet.
I'm glad I cleaned your gun. The barrel lifespan supposedly is better than conventional rifling. And it also creates a better gas seal for higher velocities, which we'll be testing.
Science.
So that's going to be science. We're pretty scientific. So moving on to the cylinder release, again, kind of one of those things where you go, man, that is a classically Korth thing. So the thing I like about the cylinder release is that it clears speed loaders. So again, like on custom Smiths or custom Colts, you'll see the cylinder release is shaved down for speed loaders. This, you notice the entire side of the gun is clear. So you have no issues with speed loaders. And for people like him, you don't actually have any issues with working.
Yeah. When we go to the range, we'll show you why this is pretty uniquely cool for a lefty.
Yeah.
But the cylinder release is the sauce.
Yeah, so I mean, because I remember when we were shooting our first Revolver video, you had a little bit of trouble.
There's no easy answer.
Yeah. So that is really cool about that, and it's very ergonomic.
It's
like,
just
boom,
fantastic.
hit it, and keep going. So, and then I have a little thing I want to kind of just talk about some little details, some things that you kind of don't think about, but when you start to accumulate, they become pretty neat. So this one's going to be kind of a nerdy one. Look at your side plate. Now you've got Smith & Wessons, okay? Mm-hmm. You typically have on the side plate, you typically have the screws going in through holding the side plate on, correct?
Sure.
It's correct.
Yeah.
Look at this gun. This gun actually has its side plate screws on the opposite side. It's like pulling the side plate on.
Right.
That's pretty neat to me.
Neato.
So typically when you take like a heavy revolver class, you'll notice, again, I mentioned you have your side plate screwdriver in your back pocket. I actually have a theory, and I have to shoot the piss out of this gun. I'm going to bring it to my next revolver class and just shoot the piss out of it. But my theory is because the side plate is held on, being pulled into the gun rather than kind of being held on by like being pushed into the gun.
Right.
I think it actually will hold on a little bit better. That's actually just a me theory, but I thought it was really neat, and it was something I noticed immediately. When I looked at the gun, I was like, oh wow, man, the side plate screws go through the gun. That's kind of neat.
That's duck science right there.
Exactly. Both of our guns, especially being carry models, are beveled extremely well. Mm-hmm. Big deal on a carry gun, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we're just talking about like hot spots, effectively.
I'm talking about like it won't snag on anything. It actually has a nice cylinder bevel for when you're reholstering. The cylinder bevel, that's always something that's stylistically, some people like them, some people don't. This one has just a break of the line, which is nice, but the gun won't snag as far as just because of sharp edges.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing here that's a hard edge.
And everything meets up really nice. It's just a well fit gun, and that's one of the reasons why. The barrel crown is hand polished, which is neat, and that's beautiful. Those barrel that is kind of a sleeve over the barrel, by the way. Mm-hmm. But the barrel crown itself is hand polished. They've got great sights.
Yes.
Great sights. So we have gold bead front, and we have a bit of the hybrid. So yes, this rear sight is adjustable, but the way that it's done is very, that Dr. Pepper got me, is very combat-esque, okay?
Okay.
So it's very small sight, very low profile sight, so great for carrying, but it's still adjustable, which is nice, because sometimes you'll have one or the other. Mm-hmm. The ignition components are all very, very high quality tool steel, so longevity is pretty great on the actual internal components.
Well, raw materials matter.
Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, conversion cylinders to different calibers, because that's a big thing about these cores.
No doubt.
Cool. Yeah. And then the last thing I'm going to throw at you, I know you've sat here long enough, we'll get to the range, but Nighthawk has a lifetime warranty. And that's worth mentioning, especially because a lot of people are sitting here going, well, it's a foreign firearm that doesn't really have like a American company, it's not like HK America, or HK USA.
It's Nighthawk.
Yeah, Nighthawk actually checks every gun that comes into the country by hand. They have a section just for Korths and gunsmiths just for Korths. So they check everyone that comes in, and they're all test fired. And they have a stateside warranty department. which is pretty cool. Now, there might be some catastrophic thing, and they might have to ship it back to Germany, but for what I understand, they can get a lot done with their stateside warranty department, which is cool. Because again, when you buy a foreign product, it's always like, oh man, like what happens if something goes wrong? Well, Nighthawk's going to take care of you. So, and they got great customer service.
Yep. Cool.
That's it. I'm good now. You want to go shoot?
Let's go shoot the freaking guns.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the range. Here we are. We have a theory, or at least I have a theory heading into this, because I'm not a very good revolver shooter, and I'm certainly not great with the Korth by any stretch of the imagination, but I've gotten a lot better with it. And what I've wondered is the Korth good and easy enough and forgiving enough to shoot with the trigger, primarily the trigger, that you could outshoot a production, just sort of baseline, mainstream revolver. So what we're gonna do is basically run a cylinder for time and accuracy on a
Ruger Security 6, 1983.
Sweet little ride there, but nothing fancy at the end
Pretty
of the day.
cool gun though, but just, I mean, this is I got this for $500.
Yeah. And then jump into a Korth. Hey, can you actually beat what you just did with a Ruger? So that's what we're gonna do. I shoot 3.2.
That's kind of slow.
Definitely going to beat my overall performance, I can tell you that much. Okay, and now over to the Korth. Ready to rock? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay, so a notably better time, 2.33 versus 3.2.
Yeah.
Now that could be because you were simply speeding up. But at the same time, the number is the number. The number is faster.
Well, the grouping didn't really it's kind of the same deal.
It's all A zone. I would expect, crinkly shooting faster like that, you're going to open up a little bit what you did, but it's all still A zone. So
what was that?
2.33, and you started with a 3.2.
Cool.
So it's actually a pretty good margin you took off of that.
Nice.
All right, let's see what
so I'll tell you a big one. If you could look back, I think my first shot on the Korth was faster. This is better sights. I also was able to track the sights better on the Korth.
Yeah, 0.68 was your first shot.
So I definitely like the Korth sights. And of course, I do think the trigger is more forgiving.
Yeah.
All right, we got you the Ruger. Hey, quite frankly, so 372, very similar.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm perfectly fine
I
with that.
actually thought that was some of your best revolver shooting right there, period.
As a guy who really fundamentally does not shoot a lot of revolvers, I'm actually perfectly fine with that, and that's all A zone.
No, you did great. I'm gonna be honest, I told somebody the other day, because they kind of were like, kind of made a comment about
he sucks. Yeah, he sucks at shooting revolvers.
I said, no, he's gotten a lot better. From the time we were sitting at this place before,
yeah, a year ago.
You've gotten much better. 373 is the time to beat.
373, all A zone. All right, come on, Germany.
You got a little extra barrel there too, by the way.
Oh yeah, sure.
So, shooter ready? This is the Korth Mongoose. So you were at 335. You did.
And one ever so slightly off to the left.
Yeah, you walked him off, but you know what? I noticed when we were shooting montage, you actually walked that gun off to the left a little bit.
Yeah, if I'm going to do something, I actually wind up pulling to the left. That said, everything was A zone. One is literally, we're talking like 2 centimeters out of the A zone to the left.
Cool.
So technically, you would say
it's still a good group. It's still a good group. Actually.
He's hurting regardless.
Yeah. But regardless, you did shave some time.
Yeah. So I don't know. Interesting experiment.
Yeah.
Pointless, but interesting.
There's something to be said. I think that if you're someone that shoots revolvers, you're gonna appreciate the forgiveness in the trigger. Because as I said, and in fact, you want me to make a little bit of a comment real quick? You'll like this.
Comment.
You know what this reminds me of now that I've had experience? LEM. Because right there, that is not that much resistance right here.
Interesting.
And then you have the wall. So it kind of does after shooting that LEM yesterday. It kind of reminds me of that.
So we'll do a little demo on staging the trigger here. It's actually what we were going to do anyway.
I didn't know that we were doing this, actually. I got no idea what we're doing half the time.
Okay, so now what we're going to do, and guys, we're sort of fighting light and Mother Nature and fucking asshole dogs today, so we're just dealing with it. But what we're going to do is we're going to try to shoot the head box. Right now we're at, what do we say, 10 yards? 10?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. And the truth is we really can't see the head box. So
There's an outline.
There is an outline because we actually can't see, the sun's directly behind it. But the point of what we're going to try to show, and hopefully Chris will be able to kind of zoom in on the gun as we're shooting, is the pretty uncanny ability to just stage this trigger and a little more pressure and boom, there we go. Because it is a very stageable trigger. Here, I'll start it off. I'll start off, since I'll probably do worse. I've
had a little too much caffeine today. I'm kind of shaking.
Which is not a great place to be when shooting revolvers.
Yeah,
It's
the
definitely the gun
steadiness.
where, yeah.
I was told by Ken Hackthorne, just stroke the trigger and don't disturb the sights. And I'm like, well, that's pretty simple, but...
You used to stroking, so ain't no big deal, man. All right, let's see if we can get there. All right, trigger is staged. I'm ready to go. Okay, so let's not hold low. There we go. So,
Good stuff.
So first one was low because I thought I had to hold low. That was just misguided on my part. Beyond that, I mean, you guys see, trigger, take it right where you want it, a little more pressure, boom, and that's 5 shots in the, that's 5 money head box shots at 10 yards with a double action revolver.
Yeah.
Can you hold it on that wall?
No, mine's a little nicer than yours, I think. I don't know if I need it.
There it is. So a effectively perfect group.
Touching.
Yeah, I mean, just chewed out the head box on that. But as you guys are seeing, regardless if you stage it or not, just the design of that trigger is unbelievably controllable.
Yes, and again, that comes from the wheel, changing out the wheel inside the trigger group. Now, I'll tell you, once you get torqued up, it's one of those things where you have to really think to stage, as I did on that last one. But man, that is a pretty excellent group with a double action revolver, and you can't really ask for much more than that.
No. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna speak to the lefties out there for the 10% of you watching. I'm gonna address you for just a moment. So the Korth I don't have a Ruger, I'm just gonna use this as a baseline discussion for lefties. So think about it, right? A lefty's shooting this gun, and you get to the end of it, and you're left playing this game. So what do I do here, right? You're like, do I do this? Do I come over and push? Like, it's not a perfect system either way.
Yeah.
And yet the Korth, if I run a cylinder, and you guys just kind of check the manual of arms here for a lefty, it's uniquely its own thing and shockingly good. Okay, so press, open, dump. And then at that point, I'm reaching for back pocket, new speed strip, load, cylinder, back in the game.
I truthfully am so proud of you. I mean, for you, when you first pulled that out here, I went, holy crap, where did you learn all that?
It's intuitive. So you literally just push,
Through.
push. I've gripped the gun now, boom. And now I'm in business, and now I'm reloading. It's like, it's really good. It's just like, okay, this is a revolver I can actually shoot. I mean, Colt Smith, all that kind of stuff, it's like, I enjoy them. Not a real viable carry gun for me, because it's like, I just can't reload the damn thing.
Right, and that does open up the opportunity for you.
It does.
Nice.
So it's interesting. And now we're going to test the theory around speed.
Cool, let's go. Hello, viewers. Now we will attempt to bring you science. At this point, you will have heard my dissertation on why a Korth revolver is so expensive. Part of that being the polygamy rifling. What do you call it?
Polygonal?
Polygonal rifling, right.
Polygonal.
So what we're gonna do is we've got our trusty Ruger, okay? And we're going to get a chronograph reading, and we're gonna get an average, and we're gonna compare it to a Korth. Again, I've never done this, you've never done this. We don't know if it's gonna actually work, but the theory is that rifling is faster, so let's see if it works. So we got 130 or 158, 38 special. I'm ready to rock. I gotta kind of hold it down a little bit, so just bear with me.
Yeah, this ain't an accuracy drill.
Yeah, we're not shooting in paper. Just bear with me, let me know when you want that shot.
Yeah, you're good.
745.
Wow.
Wow, that's pretty
So
light stuff. I told
right.
you that 38 was light. 772, 755, 757, 769, 815 on that last
shit, that is a
Okay,
big spread.
awesome.
Okay.
So what's
Divided by
our average?
6, 7, 6, 8. 768 is an average. Okay, so now we're on the Korth, same ammo.
Same kind of
700.
position. I'm pointing down into
I'm
the
actually
ground.
fascinated by this. I have to admit, I'm actually quite a bit fascinated.
You ready?
Yeah.
841.
841. Holy shit.
Ready?
We are sciencing, yes.
819.
819. Wow.
You got it?
Yeah.
846.
46.
Got
Send
it?
it.
866.
66.
Damn,
Speeding
science.
bullet.
833.
833. This is definitely going to be higher than
854.
854 divided by 6. 843.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
It's a fairly, do some math right there. 843 minus 7.
Polygonal
Polygonal rifling.
rifling.
Does the business.
It does more. Polygonal.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
That's what's the percentage here? Hang on. That is about a 9% increase.
And I just double checked. The barrels are the same. How much percent?
About a 9% increase.
That don't seem right.
It is though.
Well, how many more feet per second is it? 843 minus 768.
173.
That don't sound
That's
right.
off the top of my head.
Put that in the calculator.
The calculator will
843
read divided by
minus
68.
75.
Okay, I was close.
Okay, so 75. Now, here's the deal, right? We know that's a low velocity round. Here's my question now. 357.
That's what I'm talking about.
357. So, got the Ruger, and I did want to double check. I was like, maybe the Ruger is a little shorter. It's not. Is this the
Yes.
357?
Very fascinating stuff here. I was thumpy. I'm going to say, nope, 1001.
Jake, what kind of 357 did you get?
So 990 is the average. Yeah, this is just range 357. I got some hot shit.
Yeah, this certainly is not it. Oh, that felt pretty. Damn.
957?
1029.
1029.
991. 967.
967. Weak sauce.
1013.
13.
1031.
1031. I think that was 6, right?
Yep.
Six.
Okay. I mean, it's probably.
998.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
8 feet per second different. I mean,
Huh.
that's actually more confusing.
Yeah. I don't get it.
The
But I do know
science-
this. That 357 ain't no count.
No, boy, this is. We were on a roll, and then it took us on a detour there.
But hey, that's what you get when you hypothesize and
on live in
science.
front of live TV show.
Right. We could game this, okay? We're not. But that's it. Well, it did go faster. Obviously, certain ammo considerations are there. I actually am really shocked at that number, 75 feet per second more.
Was dramatic.
And I'm sure if we kept doing this, there'd be with different ammo, you know. But I do think that the Korth would always be a touch faster.
Yeah. Okay. So with that said, now we'll take you back to the studios. Okay, everyone. So now that we're done with the range, just taking a basic overview of what models we've got and just a couple basic things you should maybe know about the model lineup. I will say this when it comes to Korth revolvers. The previous one I had was a 8-shot NXS, 8-shot
Oh, yeah.
NXS,
Yeah.
and they have an NXR. Mine was, pretty out there, and it was, I had the barrel weight on it and all kinds of cool stuff, and I really loved it. But at the end of the day, I've kind of just evolved taste over time, and much in the way that other manufacturers, even in the 1911 world, have some simple designs and then some crazy outlandish stuff. My favorite Korths are actually the more simple ones. I look at these and I'm like, dude, these are like perfect freaking revolvers.
I agree. I agree totally.
These are money.
I mean, actually, it's worth pointing out that I was not that big of a fan initially of the Korth line.
No, and you made fun of mine.
I did.
And mine, again, a little more out there.
It was way out there.
Which
Not
is
a little.
why I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready to like settle into adulthood and, maybe get a mongoose.
Yeah, I never doubted the manufacturer. I doubted the fact that I just didn't like
mine
the way
was
they
out there.
looked.
Right.
But these hit me on so many different levels, especially the way that they have kind of this gun being a little more Smith & Wesson-esque. Your gun kind of reminds me a little bit of a Python.
It does.
I think that's cool. I think that's really cool.
It is cool. And so this is the 3-inch silver mongoose, and they make the mongoose line is like a very classical Korth lineup, and they've got a bunch of different options there. They have the silver ones; those run in a variety of barrel lengths. But then they have the DLC'd versions, and you can get those in 6-shot or 8-shot, which is really cool. Yeah. I mean, 8-shot is that's a hell of a sweet gun at that point. But the barrel lengths run from they start at 3 on this. I think they run up to 8-inch on the mongoose line. So it's like, hey, at the end of the day, there's a bunch of different ways that you can sort of spec these out. And to be candid with you really don't spec these out. It's like, hey, what is brought in is what is brought in, and you're you got to find one. And these are not. I don't know how easy those are to find. I know these are not particularly easy to find right now.
This I think is actually slightly even harder than that one.
Okay, well there you go. I mean, it's like there's some Korths that you can find with a little bit more availability, and some are just really tough to find because they're just they're low production. Part of what makes them $6,000, right? Supply and demand, and cool. So anyway, this is a mongoose line, really really gorgeous gun. It came with their Turkish walnut grips, but they have a little bit of a swell on this side of the grips, which for a lefty, when you grab it, was just a little uncomfortable. Not a big deal, shootable, but I hit up Nighthawk and I was like, loving the gun. The grips are just ever so slightly challenging for a lefty. And so Nighthawk's actually starting to do their own grips. I don't know if they make these in-house or whatnot. I don't know how that works, but it's like, hey, they're basically Nighthawk grips made for the Korth. These are their carry ones. And these are fantastic because these are like real short carry-oriented grips. And for me, hand size and everything, like these things are right on the money and really good. So anyway, I don't know if they have these or not yet. These are essentially the prototypes. So it's probably not even the final production of what you'll see, but really, really slick. Beyond that, that's literally the only thing I changed on the gun. Literally swapped the grips, haven't touched anything else.
Yeah. Okay. Similar story on mine. Mine is technically, actually this one has a little bit of a special model. This is called the Carry Special. The Carry Special Mongoose. So 2 3/4 inch barrel. This is effectively what they're marketing as their concealed carry version, but of course that is perfectly fine. You'll notice it does not have the top rib like yours, which is very interesting. Again, gives it kind of that Smith & Wesson look.
It does.
It's DLC. It's 33 ounces unloaded. I mean, I carry a big 45, so like that's a small gun to me.
I was going to say, it depends on the dude. Some dudes are like, that is so, I showed this to someone, they're like, that's not a carry revolver. I was like, well, you're thinking of a J-frame, detective special or something. It's like, sure, this is beefier than that, but it's like, if you're used to carrying a full-size, a reasonably full-size gun, a 33-ounce gun or whatever, is really not a big deal.
Yeah, again, I carry a full-size 1911, so...
Yeah, that's your compact gun.
Yeah, this actually is not too bad. I've actually had this in my left, like stuck in here.
Yeah.
And then my 1911 here.
Yeah.
So, low capacity problems. You don't make mag changes, you just pull a different gun.
Yeah.
So I actually have done similar to you, actually. And I have a set of Harrods prototype stocks. So these are unfinished. There's some kind of finished differences there. These are unfinished, so please don't judge the Harrods quality off of these. I love Harrods stocks, and I use those on most of my Smith & Wessons, so I stand behind them fully. But this is a prototype set. They actually had to have my gun to set this up. And the whole idea is trying to get more aftermarket support for the Korths in America. And of course, Harrods stocks would offer, another stock option. Not saying that there's anything wrong with the Nighthawks, or I believe Hogue also makes one, and Nil makes them, but they're German. There's nothing wrong with it, but I always feel like it's great having more options.
Sure.
And so this is the first time they'd ever seen a Korth, and they were like, wow, that's a really cool gun. So they're going to start making stocks for the Korth. These are just the actually got overnighted to me here. So this is a very cool gun. And the last thing I want to show you, being a big revolver guy, or at least someone who really appreciates revolvers, is kind of the locking situation. So, the gun locks in the rear here with the cylinder. It also locks kind of in the front. And while it doesn't lock necessarily like a classical Smith & Wesson triple lock, it does have a boss here for the crane. And that's pretty cool. Makes the gun lock up really nice and snug. This gun also, I do have, I'm cooler than Jake because I have the 357 and the 9mm cylinder.
Yeah, well, you're fancy. And That said, that actually brings up an interesting topic that would appear to me we should go show people. Well, let's go do that. Guys, if you're looking for any other ways to support the channel, we have a brown animal here on set whose complete food budget is contingent on us having Patreon subscribers. So if you don't want to see a dog starve like a savage, I would jump on Patreon. Not to guilt shame you, but he will starve if you do not sign up for Patreon. A couple other perks that you get, early access to the special whiskey releases we do. You know, we have tiers where you get things like little 1911 Syndicate Zippos, and, you know, these are kind of cool. I did the gold for matching the face-off guns. I thought it was going to be kind of cool. And we do classes. We do events. We've gone to Rock Island Auctions. We have a 1911 class coming up. Now that we're talking about revolvers, there's part of me that's going, one, that looks pretty gangster, actually, with the silver and the black, actually.
Holy crap.
Maybe that's a suggestion to Nighthawk. Maybe you should be making that, actually. But also, maybe a revolver class. Maybe if enough of our Patreon guys were like, let's do a revolver class, we could line that up. We could find someone to do it, no problem.
God, that'd be so sick. I could get us an instructor easy.
That'd be pretty sick. So Again, if you like to hang out, have fun, come to events, things like that, check out Patreon. It's a really fun way you guys can support the channel.
Okay, everyone, so we're back on the range, and one of the things we've sort of alluded to, and now we really want to elaborate it, is the notion that revolvers in general, but in particular these Korths, have some unique things going on that make them quite an interesting gun for like a shit hits the fan scenario.
It always comes down to that.
Yeah, we're talking apocalypse now.
Anytime YouTubers get a gun,
I'm that guy.
you are.
Yeah. I'm gonna be like, man, this might be my new apocalypse gun. That's gonna be the title, and just clickbaiting everyone. So here's the obvious arguments. Obviously, extremely reliable guns, right? Everyone says that. Now, where people get this wrong is they're like, it'll go bang every time you pull the trigger. Not the case.
Not the case.
Not the case at all, everyone. Just so you understand that, when you say that comment, if any of you happen to watch this, it's completely inaccurate. Like, shit can still go wrong in revolvers, just so you guys understand that. But, hey, there's no mags you got to keep track of. That's kind of nice, right? Not a bunch of extra shit. You just got a cylinder, but of course you don't necessarily have the fastest reload because there isn't a magazine. And people would argue it's reasonably simple, designed to teach a new shooter. And you go, cool, all that kind of tracks, as a general statement. But the conversation we really want to have comes down to calibers, okay, and ammo versatility. So Eli's gun in particular, not the case with mine, but Eli's in particular, can run 4 different calibers. And some of you are tracking on an initial thing, you're going, well, 38, 357, and then you're going, what the hell's going on from there? And we're going to get to it, don't you worry. But you're kind of left with a situation on a 357 chambered gun. Obviously, if it's 38, it's one caliber. Sure. But if it's a 357 gun, you're kind of stuck picking between 38 and 357, which fortunately are both pretty common calibers. But, and we're going to do a little demo here, you're kind of left with one that tends to shoot a bit softer and more forgiving, and one that's like, it'll knock some shit down, but it's going to take you more time to do it.
Yes, and I think that we know everybody who carries a revolver does this. They go, well, I shoot my 38s, and then I load up my 357s. And I'll be honest with you, I am a big bore guy. I like big calibers, but in a gun that size, it might behoove you in a defensive situation to have a fast follow-up shot.
And that's the theory. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it on a clock or a cylinder here. Basically just we'll just go from low ready to keep it consistent. Low ready, 6 rounds of 38, and then we're going to track, sort of score, if you will, and then do the same thing with 357, because I think there's just an interesting argument to say, would I rather be more powerful but slow, or fast as shit with a little less power?
Yep.
It's a real argument to be had.
Yep.
Okay, so let's do it. So let's start on 38 here. Okay, 256. I believe we have a target cam running, and I can tell because my 2 rounds were the 2 out. Everything else is in. There's one touch in the line that could have already been there. I'm not sure.
That might have been me. I kind of was fast on.
Regardless, technically in. So 256 is the time. So now we're going to go to proper 357. So this is going to be some federal Hydra shock. This is some hot shit now. Like, we are now running proper 357.
Yeah, it ain't that Fiocchi.
No. Like this, I've shot this on my gun. It's not particularly fun, to be honest with you. So here we go. We're bumping up the power. How much does it actually impact shooter ability to get rounds on target. All right, ready?
Okay.
Jesus. 412. Pretty
Yeah.
dramatic. That's a 1.6 seconds difference. Everything's clean, but there's no denying that is simply a more difficult task.
Yeah, you're definitely working harder on that. I actually was watching the gun, and I actually am surprised it was clean.
Yeah.
So,
And it's concussive, it's harsh.
yeah, and especially out of a short barrel.
Yes.
Especially out of a short barrel. But, you know, that's one of those things where I think you have to sit there and tell yourself, hey, where do I want to give and take? Especially with a short barreled revolver.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So you then might be thinking, well, man, I wish there was some middle ground.
And that's what we're going to now talk about. And we're going to talk about something Nighthawk's probably going to be disappointed with the dog.
Yeah, Nighthawk, I done told him. I said, listen, you ain't going to like this. Let me just go ahead and preface, Nighthawk is not signed off on this. So if you do this and it screws up your gun, that's your fault, okay? What I have here, oh, no I don't. What I have, where'd it go? So just to reiterate, Nighthawk did not sign off on this. Don't do this at home, but it is a good demonstration. If you know me, you know I'm a big fan of Super 38, Triente y Ocho.
Ocho.
The Latino in me loves that caliber.
ESPN 8.
That's right.
The Ocho.
And so the interesting thing about these Korths is I found through my scientific research is that they will actually fire Super 38 because Super 38 is a rimmed cartridge. Now I know what you're thinking. How's that gonna happen? Listen, this is effectively your speed loader.
Yep.
So you kind of come in here and you guide the round in. It's sometimes a little clunky if you don't do it all the time.
And each cylinder is going to respond a little different to different
Yep.
ammo. Like this
Well,
is
these are
definitely not
dirty.
a guarantee here.
And these are dirty. And yes, ammo is a factor, okay? Now I didn't say, yes, it's a speed loader, but let's be honest, ain't nothing really speedy about reloading revolvers. But hey, but now we have Super 38 loaded up.
And a Korth.
How cool is that?
This is the moment the Korth people were like, why exactly are they doing this?
So, you just want me to shoot on it?
Oh, you know what? Let's fucking time it. How about that?
Okay. Yeah,
Let's throw it on time. Let's see. So 412 was the 357. I think it was like 2.6 on the 38. Let's just see where this hovers.
Okay.
And I want to do this too.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
I worked way off target.
Okay, yeah.
I had it way off
Yeah, you
target.
melted down. It's all good. It happens to the best of us. 231 on the time. Time kind of irrelevant on that.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious about is to see what is the recoil like on this. Is what I'm actually very fascinated about.
Yeah, see, when you
Is this an interesting hybrid between 38 Special and 357? That's the theory.
don't do what I do and torque up on the gun too much, because then you'll be off target. And then once that train gets going, it's gone.
Well, I'm not even going for time here. I'm just going to go for some. I just want to know what this is like. Huh. Interesting.
So,
And then you probably have to really,
Yeah.
so you got to really
so see, this is actually where your reload
melts down.
Melts down.
Yeah, because that was too tight for me to, because I can't get a lot of leverage on this.
right.
At the end of the
And
day.
if your gun
You gotta
gets
smack.
dirty, it's over with.
So it really is recoil-wise,
It's
kind
in
of
between.
right in the middle.
It's in between,
It's
yeah.
really kind of right in the middle.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's actually quite fascinating. Huh. Now, that's the round that you guys definitely didn't see coming. At least most of you didn't. What some of you may know is a little fact that Eli loosely dropped in the studio earlier, which is you might have just noticed he slapped a new cylinder in there.
That's right. Little quick change. Little magazine release.
Now, it's a option you can get with a Korth, or you could even send, like I could send, I don't have one for mine, but I could send my gun back in and get one fit for it. But these do have to be fit. This isn't like, hey, you just slap in a new cylinder. Like Nighthawk would need to do some fitting if you want to do this. But now it gives you the ability to run 9mm, which again is in that middle ground between the 38 and the 357. So you go, hey, look, not to mention very widely available ammo. And I mean, I would even argue with, the 9mm sort of ammo technology, if you will, is so damn good these days. And 9mm is pretty fucking effective.
Well, and my biggest thing is the fact that now you have an ability to train with your revolver, as apparently I need to do. You have ability to train with your revolver for
a lot more cheap,
a fraction of the cost. And if you're not a revolver guy, but you're sitting here thinking, man, I want to be a revolver guy, it's enticing to say, man, you know, I got this. I'm assuming if you're not a revolver guy, you're not a 1911 guy, so you're probably a Glock guy. I got this plastic striker fired, you know, crap, and it's chambered at 9mm. I got a bunch of 9mm laying around. Hey, why not try to learn how to, you know, shoot a revolver?
Yeah, and I'm going to assume this is probably going to shoot a little softer than the
Trienta E8? Or Trienta?
Yeah, but what I want to actually do is run a cylinder of those HSTs after that.
Oh, okay.
I want to know with actual defensive rounds, what's this like?
Well, and the other thing too is this is a pretty accurate cartridge, even with, and we talked about this in the studio, even with the, you know, the bore being different. You know, 9mm is different than 357, but this is a 355 bore.
Yeah.
So it's able to be accurate even with 9mm.
Yeah. All right. Let's see it.
I would say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And they do have 9mm speed loaders. I will tell you, and listen, I love you, Nighthawk and Korth. Oh. They kind of suck. I mean, you don't have much choice, so that is kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
But they are not like a Safariland Comp 2 or 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is just baseline.
So you'll notice spicier than 38 Special.
Spicier than 38.
Not quite the Super, and certainly not the 357.
Nowhere close to 357.
Now, I want you to know another thing, too. You have, especially the way you reload, look at this. Hold on now. Let me science it up. Let me science you up here. Give me that 357. Okay? Check this out. Check this out. Look at this, race fans. You can't really see that. Sorry. You see how much shorter the casing is?
Yeah.
So if you have a bad hit on your extractor, your casing actually has less to go to get out of the gun.
Sure. Yeah.
And that actually, trust me, you run revolver classes, you will notice if a gun has a short extractor, which, actually, watch this. So if a gun has a short extractor, which these Korth carry models do, it does not actually come all the way out of the gun.
Yeah.
Now, if you'll eject or show yours ejected, you'll notice, well, you slipped it over, but hold on, just push it down. That they actually almost come out of the casing. You see, there's
right
less.
Right on the verge.
Yeah, there's less. And you have that problem on shorter revolvers, because full-size revolvers have a full-size extractor stroke.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Does that make sense to y'all? You get what I'm trying to tell you?
Don't feed Eli meat and cheese.
Well,
because
also
what'll
doesn't have a
happen?
plunger.
Because what'll happen is your guest toilet will.
Those are definitely hotter. I mean, those are significantly hotter.
Boy, those eject real
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Those, give that a shot. Boy, it actually really shoots nice though.
Well, and I guess this also comes down to, I'll tell you another thing, and I hate even saying this because everybody goes, well, you know, I do whatever I want. I don't let the government. But if you live in a magazine capacity restricted state,
sure.
There's an argument to be said as to a revolver.
That's fair.
Also, and again, you ain't gonna like this, but if you have one of these outside the waistband, people are gonna care a whole lot less than if you have a Glock 34 with an RMR and all that shit.
It's true.
I notice people don't normally care.
Okay, let's put this on the time, on the clock.
Oh, shit.
To do the thing.
Okay.
Okay, you wanna do the thing?
Yep.
There we go, 299.
Yeah. That's
so
good.
I really gotta say,
of course, Crispy don't have the damn camera on the target when I'm shooting good.
Yeah, it was good. I gotta really say, I think the 9mm is really that kind of nice sweet spot. 357 sucks to shoot. It does.
Well, it sucks to shoot out of full-size guns.
Sure, fair. But it's just like, man, on a gun like this, that 9mm really does kind of shine. And that's federal HST, just so you guys know. Like that's some hot rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's pretty sporty.
Yeah, not bad at all. So I know we've been talking forever here on the range. We'll go ahead and cut back into the studio, give you guys some final thoughts.
Okay, everyone. So final thoughts just to wrap the video up today. I think we would probably concur on this notion, which is, if you look to the world of high-end 1911s, or even 1911s in general, you go, hey, look, man, a $1,000 Springfield or Colt or something is something that like kind of every gun guy should have that.
Sure.
But I would also argue that, hey, having a $5,000 Alchemy or Nighthawk or whatever, it's like, look, this is a specialty gun. This is not for everyone. This is the niche buyer. You kind of know if it's for you or not. And I lump Korths in the same category. It's like, look, this is for a particular person. This is not a mainstream gun for everyone. Not to mention, there's not the supply of them to be that.
Right. And it's okay. And in fact, I kind of prefer it.
It's great.
And I think that you kind of have to look at yourself and say, what kind of revolver guy am I?
Yeah.
You know?
If you don't have a Smith, I'd probably go get a Smith, guys.
Yeah.
In terms of like, if you're like, I'm getting my first revolver, man, Korth kind of overkill for a first revolver.
But it's something that as you mature on the revolver, it's a cool gun to have in the collection. Because honestly, especially because unless you go to the custom world, there aren't a ton of high-end revolvers. You have Manurins, Spurs, and Korths, but there isn't a lot in that high end. Whereas with 1911s, Lord, there's a ton of semi-custom, and then you can do custom stuff. But this is kind of a little bit even more niche than that, and so it's cool to own one. It's cool to have one, to say you have one. And again, as we've demonstrated, these are still great guns to use. You can still use them.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality is it's not going to be my daily carry gun, but there's going to be limited circumstance where I actually throw mine on and carry it and enjoy it.
I enjoy carrying mine.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great gun to have. And this model, in my opinion, is the model Nighthawk needs to be really hammering.
I think it can appeal to a lot more people because, like, look, this is not novelty stuff at all. I'm not suggesting any of them are novelties, but you know what I mean. Little less like, what are you going to do with that thing?
Yeah.
This is truly a very usable gun, and a gun that I would just suggest for those of you that enjoy shooting and the shooting sports. Look, you get good on revolvers, and you get good with pretty much anything at that point.
Well, we actually saw that with the HK DASA class, and also in a video that's either come out or hasn't. I don't know yet. I don't want to spoil it. But when we're shooting LEMs, when we're shooting heavy DAs, a lot of what you're using skill-wise is coming from this gun.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think we make that connection a lot now. And you can always tell, a dude who was really good at shooting his HK at the HK class, I was like, you shoot revolvers a lot, don't you? He's like, oh yeah, I've got like 3 in the truck. I was like, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So
hope you guys enjoyed it. We tried to do a little bit of justice to the Korth line because speaking as someone who previously has done a Korth video, I can't even imagine going back and watching my original one. I'm sure it's horrible because I was not a revolver guy. I was doing Korth video as a non-revolver guy, and now being kind of into it and having a little section back here of revolvers that I enjoy. It's like, all right, let's do a proper video here and actually try to have people understand what makes these unique and special, and maybe something that, hey, if it speaks to you, pay attention to it.
Absolutely.
Might be a worthy pickup.
hell yeah.
Okay. All right. Hope you guys are doing good. We will see you next week.